What does it mean to build a mind so strong it scares other people? Machiavelli would say, it means power that does not need volume, control that does not need theater, silence that does not need permission, and the kind of steadiness that makes sloppy attacks fall apart in the air. You will learn how to build a mind that unsettles opportunists, slows down manipulators, and brings the best out of allies. You will not snarl, you will not beg, you will not work for applause, you will work for outcomes. When you live this way long enough, your aura does the talking, and your record does the proving, and the people who once tried to bend you start whispering before they enter the room. The alternative is not cruelty. The alternative is control. Think of your mind as a room with a door that only you can open. Most people leave that door unlatched and then act shocked when drafts from other people's moods toss the furniture around. You will learn to close the door without slamming it. You will choose when to let people in. You will answer on your schedule. You will move on principle, not on pressure. This is not a trick or a hack. It is the adult way to live. It will feel strange at first because your reflexes were trained by chaos. But the fit will be obvious the day a familiar provocation arrives. You hold still, and the moment passes like a wave breaking around a rock. Begin with the tool that offends the insecure and liberates the steady: silence. You were told silence equals guilt or ignorance. That is what needy people say to keep you available. Chosen quiet is not emptiness, it is power. It is the high ground where you can see what is truly happening instead of fighting shadows. When you withhold the reflex to explain, the room reveals itself. The impatient start to ramble. The dishonest contradict themselves. The performative get louder until everyone notices the performance. You are not punishing anyone by choosing quiet. You are refusing to make your nervous system a stage. Stillness is not a pose. It is the clean space where you put the decision on the table and ask whether it deserves your breath. The average person confuses noise with relevance and speed with sincerity. You are going to reverse that equation. You will let the silence hold the floor until facts appear or the fire dies. But silence alone does not make you untouchable. A quiet pushover is still a pushover. You need a core that rumor cannot shake. A short list of non-negotiables placed inside your day where impatience cannot reach. This is not a poster for the wall. It is code for your reflexes. Decide what you will never sell even when the price looks tempting. Decide what your morning is for, because mornings decide your horizon. Decide what you will not discuss in public, because not every conversation deserves you. Decide when you will respond and when you will let requests age until only the real ones remain. Decide how you will judge your week, not by compliments collected but by promises kept. Machiavelli's gift is not cynicism, it is clear sight. He cared about outcomes, not theater. He would tell you to build a mind that chooses outcomes first and lets performance starve. You will be tested. Someone will demand an immediate answer that costs you nothing to delay and everything to rush. Someone will toss a barbed line into a meeting to knock you off balance and steal the agenda. Someone will suggest that a rumor becomes truth unless you run around shrinking it with speeches. Do not sprint. Breathe once. Glance at your rules. Ask whether a reply increases clarity or only feeds spectacle. Ask who actually owns the decision you are being pressured to make. Ask what the action is that moves the needle and whether anyone has proposed it. If the answer is no, the conversation is theater. You are free to exit. If the answer is yes, then you move, not with apology, but with precision. You will be amazed how often a single calm question, what decision is blocked by this, returns an entire room to reality. Here is the effect you should expect and welcome. When you stop reacting, your presence becomes a test other people did not plan to take. Those who posture begin to squirm because posturing needs applause. Those who rely on speed lose footing because you slow the dance. Those who rely on confusion run out of fog because you keep pointing to the path. They may call you distant. They may call you rigid. They will not call you easy. That is the first sign your mind has grown teeth. You are not trying to frighten anyone. You are simply hard to move without cause. That hardness saves time, protects your energy, and makes your yes and no carry real meaning. A strong mind does not live in the comments. It lives in the calendar. It lives in the 5 quiet minutes before a call when you write the single point you want to land. It lives in the evening when you sit with your choices and tell the truth about what worked, what failed, and what you will change tomorrow. It lives in the small frictions you remove from your day so your attention belongs to the work that funds your purpose. Machiavelli would recognize this habit. He wrote for rulers because rulers pay for errors twice. once in blood and again in reputation. You will treat your attention like a ruler treats supply lines. You will shorten routes. You will guard bridges. You will refuse to send resources into a valley you have not mapped. The mind that scares petty people is not loud, it is organized. You will be tempted to soften your edges whenever someone looks uncomfortable. Resist the impulse to babysit emotions you did not cause. The average person manages other people's moods to avoid tension. The strategic person manages their own actions to produce outcomes. You are not cold for refusing a guilt trip. You are sane. When someone tries to drag you into a swamp of insinuation, you answer with something so short and plain it cannot be twisted. I prefer to deal in specifics. This isn't on my priority list. Number, not today. You do not decorate these lines with a biography or a weather report. You do not apologize for being clear. The people who thrive on vagueness will flail. The people who thrive on clarity will lean in. You are building a neighborhood where clarity thrives. Turning accusations back on the accuser is not sarcasm. It is proper placement of responsibility. If someone says your quiet is suspicious, tell them certainty never needs a stopwatch. If someone says you are hard to read, tell them deeds are readable for anyone who cares to see. If someone says you have changed, tell them growth will always look like betrayal to those who preferred the version they could bend. You are not performing cleverness here. You are refusing to accept a crooked frame. You are holding a mirror so people can look at their own insecurity. The mirror is not cruel. It is honest, and honesty is what cleans the air so real work can breathe. Real power gets built when nobody claps. You build it when your evening belongs to a pen, a page, and questions you are not afraid to answer. Where did I trade control for comfort today? How will I reclaim it tomorrow? What cheap dopamine bought my focus? What feeling kept wearing a costume labeled urgency? What promise did I miss, and how will I repair it without a speech? Those questions are steel. The answer's slice. The slicing is worth it because integrity grows every time you move your life back into alignment with what you say you value. People with shallow motives try to bait you into confession to control you. People with deep motives try to build with you. Your nightly inventory reveals which group you are feeding. Feed the builders, let the bait starve. At work, average candidates try to persuade with biography. They mistake volume for persuasion. A strong mind cuts the excess and speaks in clean, testable strokes. You tie your claims to the numbers that govern the choice. You name the risk you accept and the checkpoint where you will halt if reality refuses to cooperate. Then you stop and let the room sit with it. The pause carries more weight than another paragraph ever could. In that pause, those who are ready to argue about impressions must either produce evidence or stand down. In that pause, timid supporters find their courage because your calm gives them a template. In that pause, you demonstrate that you are not fighting to be interesting. You are fighting to be effective. In close relationships, most people confuse closeness with instant disclosure. They trade secrets for immediate relief, then feel flayed and resentful. A strong mind understands that privacy is not a sin, it is a resource. You offer access at the speed of trust, not at the speed of pressure. If someone demands a confession on a deadline, they are not seeking connection, they are seeking control. You can love deeply without answering interrogations. You can be generous without renting your nervous system to tantrums. When a person tries to make your boundaries the villain, you do not hold a trial about your worth. You continue to act with care, you keep your line, and you let their reaction teach you what you need to know. Online, bait is everywhere. The algorithms pay the loudest with attention and reward the angriest with reach. The easiest way to lose your mind is to pretend every mention is a summons. Do not audition for strangers. Pick your posting windows and honor them. Decide publicly what topics you will never discuss and keep that promise to yourself when the mob arrives with a crowbar. When a jab comes, ask whether a reply will raise the quality of the record or simply fatten a fire that eats time. If it will raise the record, answer once with verifiable facts and stop. If it will only feed the fire, let that fire burn out without your oxygen. The crowd will call you names to get your attention. Names are cheap. Your minutes are not. Many present calm and live in chaos. They hide panic beneath polished words. A strong mind inverts this. You look simple at a glance because your complexity is stored where it belongs, inside your preparation. You bank sleep because fatigue poisons judgment. You curate inputs because raw noise scrapes your attention and leaves you jumpy. You move your body because a stiff body hardens thought. You eat and drink like someone who plans to think tomorrow. None of this is glamorous. All of it compounds. Every stable day under pressure is a brick. Bricks make patterns. Patterns build an untouchable reputation for steadiness that marketing cannot counterfeit. There is another lever that unsettles pushy people: timing. Most arrive at the moment unprepared and then overcompensate with volume. You will arrive with a plan and then use less air. You will learn when to hold a question until the room is ready to hear it, and when to ask it early to set the path. You will move first when acting first creates options, and you will wait when waiting squeezes the field. Sitting quietly while others scramble is not stubbornness. It is a wager that their rush will expose their sloppiness. If you are wrong, you adjust and move. If you are right, you conserve strength while they spend it. If you lead teams, your calm becomes custom. People check your face for weather. If they see flashes of panic, they scatter. If they see steadiness, they hold. You make the steady pattern so boring and so predictable that in a crunch, your people can whisper it to each other without you in the room. You do not protect them from pressure with speeches. You protect them by filtering noise and naming the hill to take. You set fewer goals than other leaders and hit more of them because you refuse to dilute focus. You keep review cadences simple enough to survive storms. You praise discipline more than charisma because charisma hides defects and discipline repairs them. When negotiating, you do not haggle by reflex. You draw the edges of possibility before the meeting and let the space between those edges test the other side. You listen without rushing to fill silence with discounts. You ask questions that make the other party argue for terms that help both sides finish cleanly. You trade concessions. You do not donate them. If someone tries to stampede you with imaginary deadlines, you return to the economics that govern the situation and the verifiable pressures that justify speed. Your stillness is not stubbornness. It is signal that you are governed by reality, not by tone. Family is the hardest terrain because love makes you soft in ways clever talk cannot fix. Here, your strength must look like warmth that refuses to be weaponized. When an old dynamic tries to drag you into a rerun of arguments that never end, you change one variable, your pace. You answer more slowly. You ask what the real request is under the noise. You agree to what is healthy and decline what is not without converting dinner into a courtroom. You protect the celebration from being hijacked by a single mood, including your own. The result is not cinematic. The result is a home where tension has fewer tricks and peace has more room. Your mind will scare a few people for one reason they won't admit. It remembers, not grudges, data. You track what people do when tension rises. You notice who keeps promises and who misplaces them. You notice which conversations lift the work and which ones drain hours. You notice your own patterns too, the phrases that calm a room and the phrases that pour gasoline, the times you think clearly and the times you play pretend. This memory becomes your map. It keeps you from walking the same circles. It lets you design a week that fits how you truly function, not how you wish you did. It saves you from trusting a mask twice. You might fear this discipline will steal your friendliness. It will not. It will free it. When your boundaries are strong, your kindness is no longer a bargaining chip. When your schedule has a spine, your generosity stops resenting anyone. When your words are measured, your compliments land like gifts instead of like currency. People feel safe because they know what your yes means and what your no means. Reliability begins to shine brighter than charm. Charm fades. Reliability compounds. The difference between the two is the difference between a sparkler and a lighthouse. This is where reputation becomes a living shield. There is the pleasant image most people chase, the agreeable glow, the easy laugh, the passive promise to never cause a bump. Then there is the strong reputation that makes people check themselves before they waste your time. The first depends on being liked. The second depends on being dependable in your values and unpredictable in your availability to distractions. The first evaporates when rumor shifts the wind. The second deepens every time you choose your mission over theater. Over months and years, that second kind of reputation turns into deterrence. People who toy with others step carefully around you because playtime is expensive near your desk. A final truth should settle into your bones because it will guide you when the room gets loud. The louder you justify, the smaller you look. The less you justify, the larger the subject becomes. Let your results do the talking. Clear, visible, repeatable results consistently. Let your relationships demonstrate where you stand. Let your values carry the guard. Your presence carries the proof. When you live like that, people who wish to harm you run out of oxygen. They try drama. It fizzles. They try hurry. It stumbles. They try rumor. It echoes back to them. You did not need to shout for this to happen. You needed to hold shape. So here is the paradox that crowns this entire practice. The stronger your mind becomes, the less you need to look strong. The more control you hold, the less you need to announce and control. The more power you carry, the softer your voice can be. The more untouchable your aura grows, the more approachable your kindness feels to those who are not trying to use you. And the more you stop explaining, the more your life explains itself. This is not mysticism. It is the math of attention applied to days that you own. Build that mind with boring habits and exact sentences. Build it by declining what drains you and pursuing what anchors you. Build it by sitting with your own thoughts long enough to hear the ones worth keeping. Build it by refusing to treat every provocation like a subpoena. Build it by making promises to yourself small enough to keep and large enough to bend the curve of your days. Build it by finishing, not by announcing. Build it until people can feel it when you enter a room, the way people feel the shift in the air before a storm that waters the ground. When that day arrives, you will notice something odd. The people worth keeping will exhale in your presence because certainty is oxygen. The ones who hope to steer you will fidget and search for the old version of you that gave them free rein. They will try tricks from old seasons. When they do, smile with your eyes and not your calendar. You are not available for every performance. You are available for the kind of work and the kind of love that outlast rumor, envy, and mood. That is how a strong life feels from the inside, practical, spacious, and remarkably quiet. You asked for a hidden truth. Here it is, plain and unadorned. People are not frightened by volume. They are frightened by certainty. They are not unnerved by arguments. They are unnerved by quiet conviction that does not bend. They are not intimidated by slogans. They are intimidated by a person who does not trade their pace for applause. Become that person, and the world's cheap tricks lose their shine. Become that person, and you will build a life that feels like a clean room in a noisy city. Become that person, and your evenings will stop being autopsies of foolish replies. Here is how it feels to live this way. Your mornings no longer start with a sprint into other people's timelines. You begin with a list you wrote the night before, and you protect the first hour like a bank protects its vault. You do the thing that moves the needle before you open the door to the corridor of requests. You keep a small circle that can reach you at any time for real emergencies, and you train the rest of the world to wait. You craft messages that are concise enough to be quoted accurately, and you resist the temptation to decorate every decision with a memoir. You measure the day by decisions made, momentum created, and repairs completed. That measurement is a vaccine against the urge to perform. In public settings, a panel, a pitch, a town hall, you practice a posture that communicates steadiness without performative sternness. You keep your hands still unless they are helping a point land. You let your face rest. You move at the same speed when challenged as when praised. You thank people for hard questions without rolling your eyes or sharpening your tone. You answer precisely and stop. Your restraint becomes the lesson nobody expected. The clip travels not because you were dramatic, but because you were composed, and people are starving to see what composed looks like in a loud age. In private moments, you refuse to make your phone your confessor. You do not type a novel to defend a choice to someone who earned no jurisdiction over it. You do not pour your heart into a thread that will be screenshot out of context. You do not keep arguing with people who change the goalposts as a hobby. You let your decisions speak in real time, and you let your silence remove the audience that should never have had tickets. You take your doubts to a notebook and a walk. You consult one trusted mind instead of 20 hungry timelines. You practice the art of ending a conversation before it eats the rest of your evening. There will be days when you stumble. You will answer too fast, explain too much, or take a bait on a tired afternoon. Do not build an identity out of those lapses. Return to your rules. Restart your breathing. Restart your schedule. Real strength is not rigid. It is elastic and returns to form after pressure. If you keep returning, the bounces get shorter and the groove gets deeper. You will notice the lag time shrinking between temptation and the moment you choose the smarter response. That lag reduction is how immunity feels from the inside, because this is not about being feared for its own sake. That would be small. This is about being a person whose steadiness deters nonsense and protects what matters. The fear you will inspire in some corners is simply a side effect of clarity meeting games. The awe you will inspire in better corners is the fruit of a life that chose concentration over chaos. People will feel it before they can name it. They will angle themselves closer to your orbit because work gets done near you and words mean something near you. Your mind will not just scare the right people, it will steady the right ones. Machiavelli would tell you that the world does not bend for softness. It bends for structure. Give your mind structure, and you will stop negotiating for respect. Give your day structure, and you will stop running errands for other people's impulses. Give your speech structure, and you will stop repeating yourself into weakness. This is what a strong reputation is built from, the felt experience of you being the same person under different skies. Not stiff, but steady. Not icy, but selective. Not defensive, but exact. And where the real power hides. The most frightening thing about you will not be your vocabulary or your resume or your posture. It will be your refusal to be rushed, your refusal to be baited, your refusal to be hired as the janitor of other people's anxiety. It will be the careful way you use silence like a lens, focusing heat where it counts and refusing to scorch where it doesn't. It will be your refusal to explain your dignity as if it were controversial. It will be your habit of letting results stack until arguments look silly next to the pile. That is how you become untouchable without turning to stone, how you become strong without becoming loud, how you become generous without becoming available to every grab for your attention. To make this real, picture a university seminar where debate is the sport and attention is the currency. A student fires a loaded question at you, dressed in smirks and half quotes, hoping to shove you into a defensive monologue. The typical response is to sprint through biography and good intentions until the room is exhausted and no one remembers the actual claim. The strategic response is quieter and firmer. You ask the room which assertion is being tested and what evidence would shift the decision. You propose a standard, then you stop. The student can meet the standard or reveal that the performance was never about truth. The room learns in a single moment that you do not trade your pace for a provocation, and that lesson will serve you the next 100 times someone tries the same trick. Imagine crisis communication. A product fails and angry customers flood the feed. The average company posts a cloud of words that sounds like sorrow and smells like evasion. The disciplined company states what went wrong, what is being done, who owns the fix, and when the next update will arrive. Then it meets its own deadline with concrete progress or a straight correction, and the cycle repeats until trust regrows. That cadence is power expressed as reliability. It calms even those who remain upset because dependability is proof in motion. The company that apologizes forever without delivering becomes a comedian telling the same joke. The company that reports progress on schedule becomes a partner again. Consider a courtroom or any environment where stakes are visible and eyes are watching. The average witness babbles to sound innocent. The strong witness answers only what is asked, clearly and briefly, then waits. That waiting disorients those who expected a guilty flood. It forces hostile counsel to work for every inch until their overreach becomes obvious. Consider medicine or aviation, where checklists exist because panic kills. Newcomers treat checklists like training wheels. Masters treat them like flight controls. The list is not an insult to intelligence. It is a humility device that protects lives under pressure. Following it builds the same reputation your mind seeks. Consistent, calm, repeatable performance when it matters most. Look at money. The average person buys expensive peace and cheap chaos, then wonders why anxiety keeps landing on the doorstep. A strong mind buys margin. Margin buys selective attention. Selective attention builds immunity to bait. People will call you boring because you turn down glittering distractions. Let them. Quiet wealth is the friend of control. Debt is an amplifier for noise. If you want fewer desperate choices, fund your own patience. Think about friendship. Many treat friends as a committee that votes on who they are. They crowdsource decisions and then resent the crowd. A strong mind seeks a small council and leaves the rest of the world kindly outside. You can be open without being porous. You can be loyal without being available to every mood swing. When friends test you with mock emergencies, you teach them gently that your line is for true alarms and true joys. When they bring real pain, you show up fully. This is not hardness. This is stewardship of your attention so that you can love with a full tank instead of fumes. Now picture an artist facing criticism from a faceless chorus. The ordinary reflex is to defend the piece until the piece is drowned in a public therapy session. The disciplined reflex is to thank the audience, harvest the signal, and return to the studio. The best rebuttal becomes the next release. Over time, the work builds a reputation that crowds cannot counterfeit. That is what you are building. A private workshop where talk cannot replace craft. When you live like this long enough, your absence becomes as meaningful as your presence, because people learn that you are somewhere building, not somewhere defending. Sometimes the scariest thing you can do is remain pleasant. while refusing to move. It reveals how many demands were never about truth, only about training you to be convenient. You will feel the tug to justify and to soften. Let the tug pass through you like wind through tall grass. Keep your shape. Answer real questions. Leave the rest unanswered. That restraint will anger a few people. Let them be angry somewhere else. Your mission does not rent space to random moods. Your job is not to be a public sponge. If you want a sentence to carry into any room, carry this and mean it. I choose signal over noise even when noise calls me names. That line is a key you turn from the inside. It unlocks the room you are trying to build, the room where silence is permission to think, where control is a habit, not a performance, where power is measured in finished work, where untouchable simply means not for sale at the price of attention. Taste that room once, and the hallway of chaos you used to live in will feel like cheap air. So you will keep doing ordinary things in an uncommon way. You will listen longer than is fashionable. You will ask fewer questions and better ones. You will choose which meeting to skip on purpose to save the day you want to live. You will keep a private scoreboard that refuses to award points for clever replies and only counts outcomes that matter. You will treat your energy like a scarce resource owned by a mission, not a buffet open to the street. You will learn the grace of arriving early, speaking briefly, and leaving on time, because punctuality is a small form of power that quietly says you own your hours. When people finally say your mind scares them, what they mean is that your calm exposes their chaos, your clarity exposes their fog, your patience exposes their panic, your priorities expose their drift. That is not your problem to solve.